Some adaptogenic herbs have been shown to support better brain function, aid in memory recall, balance blood sugar and blood pressure, as well as protect the body against infection. Hi, I'm Mary Bourne, traditional naturopath, and I love sharing natural remedies with people for better health. Here with me today is my good friend and neighbor, Deb, and we're going to talk about neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. So the whole month of October, we've been discussing brain health, and neuroplasticity is helping the brain create detours. So here in Michigan, we know a lot about detours. We have two seasons. We have winter and construction. And so we know a lot about detours, and maybe even that's not a great detour. I find a better one type of thing. A lot of times people depend on their GPS, and then it says, you are here, and as you said, no, I'm not. So we're going to talk about some herbs and some supports for helping the brain. Neurogenesis is the brain creating better new cells. Now, up into the 1990s, all medical doctors said there was one of the brain cells that you were born with is all you got. If you had brain damage or you had a condition in the brain that killed off brain cells and a disease or whatever, that was it. There was no hope. And now, since 1990, we know that that isn't true, that there are new cells that we can stimulate cell growth in the brain. We talked about that last week with the BDNF factor, and so you can review that class if you'd like to. But this class, we're going to talk about adaptogenic herbs and killing off infections with essential oils. So let's start with adaptogenics. Now, these herbs are there to help us adapt to stress. So they're very gentle. They generally are high in nutrition, so they have lots of vitamins and minerals, and they can be taken on a daily basis. They're not stimulating or aggressive in any way. They're very gentle, and so they compound, and so they can be taken as a food. So in herbal medicine, we have what we call 4 degrees of herbs, and the first degree is food. And so that would be like broccoli, food that you could eat on a daily basis, and it contributes to the health of the body. Then we have second degree herbs, and those are like condiments. So it's like garlic. You would not eat a whole plate of garlic. At least if you did, don't sit next to me. So garlic and parsley and things that you would add to a food. Then the third degree are herbs that actually can work with creating a movement or energy in the body that would add to the balance, so it would change the balance from here and tilt it this way or whatever. And you would take them for a period of time, and then you wouldn't want to continue taking it because then you would create an off balance. And then the fourth degree are things that you take just minute amounts to get past something. So these are like the poppies with opioids, and small degrees of herbs that are, if you took them in great deal, would be toxic. So those are not herbs that I generally use or talk about, because those would be, you would have to be in the presence of a naturopathic doctor and working with them to achieve any health progress with those type of herbs. Those are, even like violet leaves. If you take a lot of violet leaves, they actually can help to kill cancer cells, but they can also offset something else. So I talk about herbs that most everybody can use and have benefit for the general public, because I'm not consulting with you. And I always say that if you have something personal, please email me and we can talk about. So some of the adaptogenic herbs are, well, all of them deal with stress, but some of them are more specific for different types of stress. So I like the herb Astragalus. Now, Astragalus is a beautiful herb, and it's the root that's used. And when I went to China, we went to this market, this herb market, and it was huge. It was like the size of a football field. And there were just rows and rows and rows. And of course, I'm a people watcher anyway. And so I'm these little kids in strollers, and they're chewing on this. It looked like a tongue depressor. So I asked our guide, what are these kids chewing on? And he said, oh, that's astragalus root. And what it does is as they mix it with their saliva, it helps to give them nutrition. So it supports their immune system, and it's fibrous, and so they can gnaw on it and help that tooth to come through. And it's something that all over China the children use to support better health and help their teeth come in. So astragalus can be used at all different ages of life, because it helps you to deal with stress. So as you become a toddler and you are doing the teething thing, it will help you prevent colds and flus and supports the immune system. As you become into puberty, it helps with hormonal balance. So the stress of these hormones being out of balance, astragalus is a wonderful thing to add to a teen's food. You can open the capsules and mix it with oatmeal. You can put it in soups. You can take it as a capsule, but it's very mild in flavor and nutritious. There are people that make nut butters and they add astragalus to it as a binder. There are a variety of recipes on the internet for using astragalus rather than just taking it as a capsule. But in a pinch, they're great capsules to have on hand. They help in all the different seasons to help you adapt to the weather changes, or altitude. Like we used to go skiing, and I wish I had known about astragalus back then, because I don't deal well with the altitude changes. The first 3 days I generally had a headache and out of breath, and I'd be the one laying underneath the pines in my snow with my skis on. And so astragalus can be very helpful in changes of weather. Like I said, I don't deal well in 90-degree weather, and so I usually like to bring some with me if we're going to go to some place where it's very hot and we want to go on tours. Like we're going to be going to San Antonio during March, and I'm thinking it'll probably be a little warm there. And so I will probably bring astragalus with me to help me deal with the heat, so I can be outside and do the tours and that. So it also helps, like when you're going into menopause, women who have hot flashes and are dealing with these power surges. It can help with that. So astragalus is a great thing to have on hand, putting it in your emergency kit for any kind of stresses that occur during the year. So for centuries, people have used herbs, and drugs are tested in test tubes and on mice and rats, but herbs are tested on people and have been found to be true. So I would much rather put my trust in an herb than a drug, let me tell you.
How often do you have to take that if you're taking it like for a tour? Would you just take it twice a day or something like that?
For what?
Going on tours to give you...
Oh, on tours and that. Depending on, how well I was doing with it. But like I said, it's safe to take. You can take one every hour if you wanted to. But I would certainly start my day with it. Okay. And yeah, that's a good question. So I also like diffusing pink grapefruit. If there's teens around, that can help to set the mood. It helps to raise it. It's a yummy scent in the morning, and so it's very uplifting. Citrus flavors are very safe in the wintertime. However, if you're using them on the skin in the summertime, they can create some photosensitivity, and that makes it you can burn easier, so you have to be careful of it. The only citrusy smell that you can do is lemon balm. Now, lemon balm isn't a true citrus, but it can have that flavor. So lemon balm or lemongrass are both acceptable to take during the summertime. You can still have that lemon scenty smell, but they won't cause photosensitivity. There are so many adaptogenic herbs, and a lot of them are targeted herbs. Like hawthorn is a targeted adaptogenic herb that supports heart health. Ginseng, which supports energy. Ginkgo supports circulation. Rhodiola, burdock. I love dandelion, especially in the springtime. It supports the liver and detoxification. Nettles is a very good adaptogenic herb, especially for men, because it can help with balance the prostate, so calm the inflammation that occurs in the prostate and causes the enlargement of the prostate. So it's very helpful for men.
What is it? What is there?
Nettles.
Oh, nettles.
Nettles. Now, nettles, you can grow almost any of the herbs that I've talked about. You've probably seen burdock. It's a big-leafed weed that has these branches of little burrs on it, and it's actually where the idea of Velcro came from. And because they attach to you're walking through the woods and you get these little burrs attached to you, and they're like impossible to get out. Or if you have an animal, they always find the burdock bush because they got it stuck all over them. But the root is eaten in Asia as a vegetable, and so they're very, very nutritious. But nettles, it has an interesting thing. When you pick nettles, and you can go on the internet and look at what nettles looks like in that, but I want to give you the hint about picking it. If you choose to grow it, you want to pick it from the top down. It's the underside of the leaf that has a chemical that burns just like poison ivy, and it can itch, it can create blisters. But once you pick it and blend it or put it in hot water, it disperses that chemical, and it's no longer you can touch it and it's no longer. So people will chop it up, and once you've chopped it up, you can put it in salads even. So it's really interesting. I tend to cook it rather than use it raw. But it's very nutritious. It can be used just like spinach, and very beneficial. But again, you have to know what you're doing. One herbalist talked about nettles as the menopausal woman. If you treat her kindly, she'll be good to you. And if you don't, she will get you back. So, one of my favorite herbs that I've fallen in love with is ashwagandha. Now, It is an amazing adaptogenic herb. Most adaptogenic herbs, it takes a little bit of time for it to really compound and you see the effects of it. Like in better energy, not the kind of energy you get from like caffeine. It's an energy that is slow moving and long lasting, so it creates endurance. A lot of the athletes take the adaptogenic herbs just to keep them from, keep their energy levels at an even keel. But ashwagandha, everyone I've recommended it to, and even myself, if you take 2 a day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, sleep is wonderful. It's sound. You'll sleep through the night. You'll actually remember your dreams, which is a detection that you are sleeping deeper. If you can remember your dreams, that means that you've gotten to the stage of sleep where the brain can wash itself. That's one of the reasons you want 8 hours of sleep at night, is so that the brain can shrink just a little bit and the fluids can wash the brain. Sort of like going into the car wash at night. Going into the brain wash now. So ashwagandha is a great herb. You wake up refreshed in the morning. You don't have that groggy sense that it takes you a half hour, 45 minutes. Don't talk to me until I have my coffee thing. So, but everybody that I've recommended ashwagandha to, it has been that beneficial. So you can go on my website, look it up, and get more information on what the ashwagandha is good for. But it's so great because you only have to take 1 in the morning and 1 at dinner, and you see results very quickly. So some people will take it and they'll put it in their smoothie. So if you're tired of taking a lot of capsules, adaptogenics are easy to mix with food. It's really a great thing to do. Now, when you're at work, one of the things you want to do is set your timer, and for 5 minutes, get up, stretch, bend over, swing your arms, create circles, take a couple of deep breaths, move that diaphragm so that you're getting blood flow. When you bend over, relax the knees a little bit, swing your arms back and forth, get the blood to this part of the brain, because when you're sitting for a long period of time, guess where all the blood flow is going? Down to your behind. And so you want to get up and get moving, and that do a couple of pumps with your legs. And I don't like jumping jacks. Jumping jacks are unilateral, and your brain doesn't function well on a unilateral. Doing cross crawl is much better for your brain, just like walking. That's why walking is so good, because you're actually moving the opposite sides of the body, and that is the way your brain works. So it's always a good thing to stand in place and do a bunch of cross crawls and that. You'd be surprised how refreshed you'll feel. Now, if you diffuse peppermint or some kind of lemon or something that is invigorating, that adds to it. And you can stay focused for a long time if you take these 5-minute breaks. Now with children, we also have the herbs in focus attention. Now these herbs help the brain and connect with neurons that cause better memory, better attention, better focus, and the focus attention is in capsule form or it's in powder form. So you can mix the powder with water, shake it up, and they can have that in their lunch. They shake it up and drink it. water is acceptable, but capsules are not acceptable. And so this is a way that you can have the children get the nourishment they need during their lunchtime. Another trick you can do is take a tissue, drop some peppermint oil on the tissue, they can stick it in their pocket, and then when they feel themselves losing their attention, they can pull out the tissue, sniff it. Now, you want to caution them not to be constantly doing it and cause attention to themselves. The teacher may know, what are you doing? The least attraction they have, the better. And so they can blend in very easily. These are tools that most children can use, and they don't feel like they're being separated from the group, and it will definitely help them. So if you want to learn more about focus attention or any of these, go to my website. On the sidebar, it'll say Urban Cyclopedia, and it's alphabetically listed, and you can check out any of the herbs that I've mentioned and see if any of them would be helpful for you. So there are so many things that we could discuss in supporting brain health. Saturday I did a class for an hour and a half, and it was like I just barely touched the surface of it. There's tremendous research being done on this. Neurogenesis and neuroplasticity are the hot topics in most of the scientific communities. So much research is being done on them, and it's really a wonderful thing because it gives us so much hope. That it used to be that if you had a parent who had Alzheimer's, that you were sure that was it. The big fear was there. And the thing of it is if you don't change what you're doing, that is a possibility. So the important thing to do is make sure that your lifestyle isn't the same as those who have Alzheimer's. Smoking, drinking heavy, we know that affects the brain. Eating vegetables and getting good fresh air and having good supplements, we know that supports brain health. So the more you support it, the least likely you're going to have. And it's much better to prevent these conditions like Alzheimer's than it is to have to come back from it. Although we know now that is a possibility. We're learning more and more about neural pathways and how we can circumvent these damaged tissues. So it's really an exciting time for brain health. In my Herbaligram, which is a electronic newsletter I send out to about 600 subscribers every Monday. The topic was the traveler. So you can see that on the website under newsletters. But the traveler is the vagus nerve. Vagus means traveler. And it begins at the base of the skull, and it travels down under the ears, down the neck, and then it just winds all around the body. But the closest to the skin that the vagus nerve travels is right on the mastoid bone. So right here behind the neck, you can feel that bone. Now, unfortunately, a lot of women, that's where they put their perfume, and perfume is loaded with toxic chemicals. And so if that's what you're doing, stop. Because we've learned to put them in the backs of our knees and the wrists and the pulse points and that. But if you're using essential oils, that's fine. But if you're using any kind of a perfume, that's going to go right into the vagus nerve or right into the pulse points, into the bloodstream. And you don't need those synthetics into your bloodstream. But one thing you can use are essential oils. Now, the biggest thing that is of concern is vagus nerve infection. Now, vagus nerve connects with the gut. That's the gut-brain connection. And the vagus nerve is the one that brings the energy and the information up to the brain from the gut. And you can use all kinds of essential oils and blends and that, but the one that I've used that helps with getting rid of infection that can help the vagus nerve get rid of brain infection, and it also can go into the heart because it surrounds the aorta and comes down and goes into the gut. So I use a distress remedy. I've talked with you about distress remedy that can help with balancing the energy of the body between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So we want to keep that balance. One is for relaxation, the other stimulation. And you don't want to always be stimulated. You don't always want to be relaxed. And so it's good to go through your day bouncing between the two. So I use distress remedy, aloe, lavender, which is a great tissue healer, so it can travel through and help with tissue healing. And then tea tree, which is a great antimicrobial and antiviral, as well as antibacterial and antifungal. And so all you do is take a couple of drops. Now, I recycle these dropper bottles. You can use any kind of a dropper bottle. You put a couple of drops on your fingertip like that. I'm going to share it with my friend Deb here. Rub your fingertips together and then just massage that into that bone and just underneath it where there's a little notch. And what you're doing is you're allowing the vagus nerve to send that energy up into the brain and down all the way through the different organ systems and supporting better thinking, better health, and getting rid of the biggest concern they have now with this vagus nerve infection. So, in fact, there's a link in that newsletter to research that was done that they now think that Parkinson's was something, an infection that traveled up through the vagus nerve up into the brain. And isn't that amazing if we can find some ways to support the brain and to get rid of things like Alzheimer's disease. So I got the word. I have 5 minutes left, and I have a whole lot of information yet that I haven't talked about, but let's get to our action steps. So make sure that you clear your vagus nerve from toxicity by using pure essential oils. Remember to do your research. The company I use, Nature's Sunshine, has a 3-way guarantee on their essential oils. They guarantee purity and organic from the grower. Then it goes to the distiller, and then that guarantee also then comes to Nature's Sunshine, and we test again at the research center. So it's a 3-way guarantee that you're getting the purest oils available. Now, next month in November, I want to talk about the differences between essential oils and flower essences, because I have talked about both of those, and there's been some inquiries about that, and I thought I would do a couple classes about that. So remember to get up from your chair every hour and do a 5-minute stretching and exercise, and use your essential oils for breathing in and getting more energy going so you can keep focusing on task. Share what you've learned and recommend these videos to your friends so that they too can have hope for better health and things that don't harm the environment or yourselves. Keep focusing on gratitude. Be thankful for the people and gifts of nature around you and the flowers and all the joy in this world. And I want to thank you for viewing. Until next week, this is Dr. Mary for the Health of It.
Yay!